Welcome into Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho.
And this is Jacob Waters.
And we have a great episode for you guys today. It's really nice, when the NFL does us a favor and just says, hey, you don't have to really plan anything this week.
Yeah, we're writing the script for you.
We are going to write the script for you. Absolutely right, man. So much to get to. Huge injuries that we got to talk about. Huge trades. Just a little bit of drama. A lot of wide receiver issues going on across the NFL, it seems like. We're going to get to all of it. We're going to talk about some BovadaSportsbook.com odds after the trade deadline, after these serious injuries to Derrick Henry and Jameis Winston that certainly affected the odds big time. We'll get to all of that. Where do we start, man? I'm going to let you... We have no, 1 through 5. We just have a bunch of topics that we have to talk about. So I'm going to let you start it off wherever you want to go with it.
I would say we could kind of flow it through the wide receivers, I guess.
All right, that's a good way to do it. Hey, let's talk let's talk OBJ drama first. Let's go OBJ here. I'll let you kick it off with what's going on in Cleveland with OBJ.
So Odell Beckham is off to a very, very slow start this season. This is a healthy season for him at Cleveland. And a lot of people were expecting him to be moved come trade deadline. And it kind of started with, now this has been an ongoing thing since he kind of landed in Cleveland, just because I guess the name and superstar status that Odell carries with himself. But his dad put out a video, a compilation of Odell being open on certain plays and Baker not even looking his way, Baker just not even giving him the time of day. And right now, Odell has a little over 200 yards through 8 weeks. And I know, like you said, he's hurt, hasn't been out there all the time. It's kind of been a rocky start from top to bottom. But you got to answer it. It's why did the Browns not trade him? And if they are not trading him, why are they not utilizing Odell Beckham for what Odell Beckham should be? Because he is more than just the likeness of that catch that happened so many years ago. I truly believe that Odell Beckham is a top 10 wide receiver in the league. And if you look at talent, just what's inside of him and what he can do out on a field, it's top 5.
Yeah.
He has that ability. The stuff that you see him do pregame, he's out there just to play backyard football, and he can just snag on people. His yards after the catch, his ability to make the jukes, make the guys miss, he's electric, and we just don't get to see that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Look, coming out of college in 2014, he has been great from the jump, man. I mean, 91 receptions for 1,300 yards to start his career. You mentioned he is not just one catch. That is an absolute fact. But
I feel like his haters try to put him off as just the catch.
But I mean,
he's more than
his
that.
first 3 seasons were on pace. At least, first 3 seasons of the year, they were on pace to break Jerry Rice's record. Now,
and that's what people were saying was that watch out for this guy because of how young he was.
Yeah.
If he were to do this for 15 years like he could, it's over.
Now it's fallen off, obviously. He's 28 years old now. The stint with the Browns does not seem like it's going to work out. Obviously, look, injuries are a serious thing there. I mean, he's had multiple injury-ridden seasons. Even this year where, I'm not going to give him the excuse of being hurt. He doesn't deserve that, I don't think. But he certainly has had some, he's missed some games because of some snagging stuff.
I don't think this year is to his fault, though. Statistically wise.
I don't know. I certainly don't think it's his fault. I certainly think he does need maybe a different place. I think the Stefanski, scheme doesn't really, lend itself to a number 1 centerpiece type wide receiver that OBJ is and kind of wants to be, because that's what I do think he can be. I think he can be the centerpiece of an offense, and I think in this game, the way the Browns really fix the issue with OBJ is make him the centerpiece of this offense. Make him the first read in every single situation, right? Make him the first read. Make him the decoy. If it's not going to him, he's the decoy of the play. Make him the star, and that's not what he's been schematically, all right? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to have gone in deep dive or anything on the Browns, their film or anything like that. But you can tell that he's not the first read every time. He's not the second read every time, and he's just too good of a talent, like you said. I absolutely agree, to not be. And I think that's really where you start. And you're paying him too much money to not be.
That's the other part where if they're not utilizing him like Odell Beckham should be, then get rid of him.
Yeah.
Get some assets while you can. Why are you sitting here letting his prime be wasted?
I absolutely agree. What was the OBJ trade? How much did they give up for him? Because they give up, I feel like, an arm and a leg, right? I mean,
I can't remember exactly what it was.
It was a huge trade. I'm looking it up right now. Trade.
Well, right now you're only going to find
okay, I'll look it up. You talk for a second, I'll get it. I'm
trying to think what it was off the top of my head. It was Jabril Peppers, and
he was definitely
and a
part
high
of it.
Pick.
Trade OBJ on March 13th, 2019 to the Browns. Bold move for the Giants. It was after he signed the 5-year, $95 million contract. That doesn't actually tell me what the trade was for.
On,
first round pick. No, we'll keep going. We got a 2019 first round pick, 2019 third round pick, and a safety, Jabril Peppers, to the Giants for OBJ. Giants selected Dexter Lawrence and Osaya. So I don't know who that is with those picks. So kind of a little bit of a one-sided trade. I mean, Dexter Lawrence has been played well, so I guess that's fair.
The whole point was that they had to get rid of Odell just for where the drama had been going with him being labeled as
the drama
diva.
followed him.
I feel like it died down, though. Jarvis did a really good job of kind of keeping him, I guess, under wraps and as the good teammate kind of vibes, because that was the thing that people were saying about Odell was he's not a good teammate.
I think it died down because the Browns started to overachieve, right? They were overachieving what everyone expected.
I guess no one really cares if you're diva as long as you're winning.
Yeah, I mean, nobody. I genuinely wonder. And also, he was hurt. Like their best year, the Browns' best year last year, he got hurt. So you can't be a diva when you're hurt.
And
now
Baker
they
was
come into
having
the
problems
season
before he got hurt.
Yeah, and now they come into this season and he's not being utilized or he's not getting the stats that he obviously wants. Whatever the issue is there, that's to each their own. We can all speculate on that all day. The Browns are underachieving on the record board. I mean, what, they're 4-4 now?
Yes, they are.
And obviously Baker's been hurt.
They've been banged up.
There's been some issues there. I can certainly make a lot of excuses and tell you that they're still a really good football team, but they are underachieving to what we expected. And that's kind of, now we're kind of hearing the chirping again. And hey, the Giants were not good when they traded OBJ. Maybe I'm wondering if there is a connection there. I'm not saying there is.
I just think they need to do their due
it.
diligence and go ahead and let Odell go. So I think
at the end of the year, you're saying trade him for a first?
I don't think Odell would be worth a first anymore.
I don't either. 28, yeah.
I don't think he's worth a first. I know the talent that he is capable of, that is worth a first alone. But if I'm the team trying to go get him right now, no. I wouldn't. Now, I can also look at the Patriots giving up a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu and say, based on that value, because that was one of the ones that
I think that was a unique thing. I think that was a unique thing that, like, you're not going to see that every day. I look at OBJ. When you traded for him, he was, 25 and had one serious injury. Other than that, he had over 1,000 yards in every single game.
And you were expecting him to be the face.
You expected him to be that guy. Now you're trading for a guy a little bit older, obviously. Still, I would say in his prime, 28's not a career ender for a wide receiver by any means, but certainly has a couple more miles on it.
Years, I would say,
but really hasn't been the guy since he's been in the Giants. He's had 1,000-yard season since he was traded to the Browns, and that was 1,035. So it's not enough. You're right. I don't think he's worth. I don't think he is worth what the Browns would want for him.
I guess that might be what's holding him back. It's just sad to see talent sit there and. For how good Odell is, it's the role that the Browns are giving him is the same thing that Donovan Peoples-Jones can do, Rashard Higgins can do. They have certain names. I'm not saying talent-wise, but I'm saying what they are asking Odell to do is not much.
Let's go into the future just for a second, and if I give you, what would your odds-on favorite, your Bovada odds-on favorite be to land OBJ next year?
The Green Bay Packers.
Okay, see, that's a great one. That is
the one that scares me. Is the Green Bay Packers?
Is that if they keep Rodgers, or does it matter?
Well, there's a world in my head where when I look at it from the Packers' perspective, especially, is how can I keep my Hall of Fame top 5 great quarterback happy? It would be to go get a talent like that, to pair him alongside Devontae Adams. It's the moves that they, it's a different story, different subject, but the Packers' inability to keep him happy is one of the problems. It's a red flag where it's like, wait, why are y'all not trying to go do this? Why would you not send a second-round pick to the Cleveland Browns? Because the Packers are a very good team, so that's a late second-round pick at that. That's worth that. That's all you could ask.
I think the Browns. So let me ask you this: if you're the Packers, do you send a first? Because I think the Browns wanted a first.
Probably not.
Man, I would probably. I would.
Do I know what Baker's worth? Yes.
I think we've seen.
I'm putting my Packers management on.
We're gonna talk about some trade. Sorry, I was talking over you there. I'll let you go and then I'll talk.
No, I'm saying that I don't think the Packers would do it. I don't think they're smart enough to be able to make those moves because they would have made those moves in the past.
Yeah, I get that. I'm saying more like, obviously we've seen what every team values picks differently. We know the Rams don't really value picks very highly. We'll get to that in a minute. But I look at what the Packers are going to be. They're obviously, the pick is going to be somewhere between 25 and 32. And it's I don't care who it is. I think whoever you're getting there is not as good as OBJ. I don't even think it's close.
With that, yeah.
So I mean, wherever you're at with that, that's kind of where I land there. Let's move on to some other receivers. You said we want to talk receivers. A little bit sadder news with we'll go Ruggs and then Calvin.
Yeah.
Ruggs here obviously gets the DUI. I don't know the exact wording. The DUI with murder, vehicular homicide. Obviously impaired behind the wheel. Unfortunately, kills somebody in the Greater Las Vegas area. I don't know exactly where it was.
They said it was a few miles from the Strip. So
really,
he was right near the
That's
main
so
part of
unfortunate,
Vegas.
man. Obviously, let's from a human perspective, incredibly unfortunate. And the heart goes out to the family of the victim and all of those things. We try and tend more towards the football perspective, and God, the Raiders can't catch a break.
No, they really can't. Their name has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, whether it be their head coach saying some insensitive slurs to now what would be their star wide receiver pick, who's going to be sidelined for some time. Who knows how long, is facing jail time. So there's a lot of different things that are going to have to unfold out of this, and it's just really bad because it was a surprising move whenever they chose Ruggs at 11 over CD and Judy too, but that's kind of how it shaped up.
Yeah, how bad does that move? I mean, that move looked bad no matter what, but how bad does that move look now? Holy shit! I mean, and listen, this can
off
still
the field
be,
stuff is so.
Yeah, you could never really control that, and
Yeah.
that's not something I don't think that's something you could have seen coming, especially assuming this isn't like a constant issue. This isn't like a Justin Blackmon thing where like he had those issues for years. But I look at this and be like, man. It does feel like, I mean, he's 22 years old. He could obviously come back from this. He's not going to play the rest of the year. I would be shocked. I'd be shocked if he plays in 2022. For his career, who knows where he ends up and who knows what his second chance looks like. He'll get one probably.
Of course.
But
I have always believed in everyone getting a second chance.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that a day after something like this happens, though.
Exactly. It certainly is. I will say from the other side of the football perspective, Ruggs was a little bit underperforming for that 11th pick in the draft type of status to be picked ahead of a Jerry Jeudy who has been injured most of the season but still playing really well with the Broncos, and obviously CeeDee Lamb killing it with the Cowboys.
Superstar.
He was playing well. I mean, I think he was improving over his rookie season, but I don't think he's like the face of that offense by any means. He's not like, this loss is not going to like completely derail the Raiders on what they can be this year. I'll put it that way.
I would say a silver lining, I guess that's the way to look at it, is that, it is a next man up mentality with the Raiders, especially when you have a guy like Hunter Renfrow, who's one of Derek Carr's favorite targets, or most reliable target, that is. Brian Edwards has done a really good job. They have a lot of different names who can step up there, and I guess it's to discredit Henry Ruggs and saying that he wasn't able to take that role and keep it as his, as the number one superstar there, but I guess it can be a good thing now to think that you aren't that reliant upon his services to know that it'll be okay, I guess. Yeah,
and the speed is another aspect, but you can find a fast guy, I'm pretty sure.
Go get Deshaun.
Go Deshaun, yeah. You mentioned that
Jackson
before the
just got cut.
Yeah, you mentioned that before the video. That's a great point. Deshaun Jackson, I mean, go get some speed. He's not what he was, but I mean, he's still fast.
Speed though.
Exactly. Last thing we got to talk about, Calvin Ridley. He is stepping away from the game for personal reasons. And before we talk about, the football aspect of all this, I got to just be selfish for a second.
Yeah.
You were on my fantasy team, and I'm sad. I am. Like, why did you have to leave? This sucks for me. I am personally affected by this. Yeah. I personally think that you should have stayed and played football because it would have helped my fantasy team, and I could have won, and I'm very upset.
I agree with you. Yeah. I also wish I could tell Derrick Henry I would cut my foot off and give it to him for the sake of my fantasy team too. So Calvin, how dare you? We need you.
Listen, obviously I say that in jest. I hope nothing but the best for the player. Obviously, whatever issues he's going through, I don't pretend to get into that or know anything about that. But hopefully he gets right and he can come back better and stronger next year or however long this takes him to get through. Yeah. Again, we can talk about this.
It's hard to speculate on what was the reason.
We don't know what's going on.
Because this was a huge season for Calvin, and saying that this was him stepping into the shadow that's Julio Jones, and the shadow that Julio had to step into that was a Roddy White, that's kind of just been this passing of the torch of elite legend. And, Julio, of course, was a lot more of a legend than Roddy White. But Roddy White was very, very respected wide receiver whenever it was his time.
Very, very good player.
Exactly. I think people forget about that name, honestly. Yeah. Go back and look him up. Roddy White, damn good baller. But Calvin Ridley, I don't know what it was. Maybe the pressure. Something was off. Something has been off with him.
Yeah.
And you could see that a lack of product on the field. I kind of have a different little twist for you, though. Like, what do you think about, like, a Bovada odds with Rookie of the Year and Kyle Pitts now? Because there's not a lot of quarterbacks balling. There's really not. I would say quarterback class as a whole has kind of have their weeks, but they're struggling. Maybe Mac, just because of the patient success. But Listen, Kyle Pitts is the only rookie tight end to do 100 yards back-to-back since 1970.
Yeah,
is there a chance?
It wouldn't absolutely shock me. I think before Pitts, it would have to be Jamar Chase. I think you would need something to happen to Jamar Chase for him to slow down.
I don't want that either.
Yeah, well, yeah, knock on wood. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying
Jamar Chase has
whatever the odds are there.
That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. In
now,
terms of
Kyle
odds,
Pitts is the true number one on that team.
Yeah,
because there's just a lack of weapons overall.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it also, it is unfortunate for Matt Ryan, who's on the tail end of his career. People don't realize this. The Falcons are not in a great spot. Ever since they tried to push for another Super Bowl after losing the 28-3 Super Bowl game, they pretty much went all in with the players that they had, and they backloaded a bunch of his money. The player that is going to be paid the most of any player in the NFL over the next 2 years is Matt Ryan. And that's because of those backloaded contracts.
Not it, man.
That is a GM who went all in and lost, obviously, and now this new organization is having to pick up the pieces. This is going to be a little bit of a slower rebuild, I think, than fans are probably hoping for.
Well, they haven't hit the ground yet. Yeah,
exactly. And the offense can still be good. Calvin Ridley could come back next year. At the end of the day, this is probably a lost season for the Falcons anyway. Whatever win games or stats or whatever that Calvin could have put up this year, they weren't going to go to a Super Bowl. They weren't going to win a lot of games. They weren't getting to the playoffs, really. So, I think if he can get whatever is going on in his life right and he can be ready for football next year, that could be to the benefit of the Falcons nation and this team as a whole, because, that's less mileage on the tank as long as he's not, taking time off to go eat Oreos, which I don't assume he is.
Yeah, he'll stay in football shape and he'll be ready to go, and that's what you want. You want the best version of the best player on the field.
Absolutely.
And we had all recognized that something was off. We didn't know what it was.
And football is not the first thing in the world. So you have to whatever it is.
He's made his money. Right. He's doing good. Get right, get back out there, and the team will be ready for you.
Absolutely. And to everybody complaining on social media and all that about your fantasy team, I get it. I do, because I really was kidding obviously earlier, but I do have him on my fantasy team. But come on, don't make this a selfish thing about you. This is about a person.
At the end of the day,
his
are
life
people.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's take away and stop acting like they're video game characters for a little bit here. Moving on, we touched on all the wide receivers, right? We're good?
We got wide receiver drama out of the way.
Good. Hell yeah. All right.
Now
where are we going
next?
next?
Some better news that is injuries.
Injuries. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk injuries.
I love injuries.
Listen, we already kind of touched on it a little bit. The two big ones we have to talk about: Jameis Winston, Derrick Henry. I'll touch on Derrick Henry first, I suppose. That's why we're in this jersey.
It's Adrian Peterson. It's all day, baby. Mm-hmm. I am a diehard Vikings fan, for those of you who don't know, and I fell in love with Adrian Peterson since he was at Oklahoma. And when that match made in heaven lined up with the Vikings, it was awesome for me. So fell in love with it, diehard AP fan. And now I'm going to say all of the good things about him just to kind of taper it back and say I know all of you fantasy managers are ready to just unload your fab budget and completely dump it all on Adrian Peterson. And I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't do that. Yes, AP is going to step into this role, but I'm sorry, as much of an AP fan as I am, we have to acknowledge the fact that he was a free agent for this long. And there has been a lot of teams looking at running backs. Saquon got hurt. You're telling me the Giants didn't do their due diligence and look at Adrian Peterson? The Ravens were calling name after name after name. For whatever the case may be, I don't know what it was. Adrian Peterson maybe was just sitting back to the sidelines thinking that's not a good fit. Maybe they saw the same thing, whatever the case may be. AP was a free agent for this exact reason. So Titans fans, you have to, because we live in the area, so I see it on Facebook all the time. They're like, oh my goodness, AP's in town. This is going to be awesome. There's a chance. I hope for the fan. I hope for Adrian Peterson just to see that, revitalization of his career, because I want that for him. But the odds are stacked so far against him. And one of the other things is that it's opportunity. People are forgetting about a guy named Jeremy McNichols, that's who I think you should go drop some fab on. That's the guy who I think has been in this offense, who is getting acclimated to this team once again, because it's very hard for a guy to just step in off the streets and say, okay, now you're going to be Derrick Henry. Can you imagine how hard that is?
Adrian Peterson is not worth any of your fab budget, in my personal opinion.
I think he's worth some of it.
He's 36 years old, man. I'm out on it. I love AP.
It's okay to be out on it.
Everything you said, I completely agree with. The Washingtons cut him after training camp. Cut him. Didn't think he was worth the fourth string running back job.
And there's a reason. Yeah.
He fizzled out with the Lions. He's been all over the NFL, and I know how much he loves the game. He clearly does not want to give it up, does not think he is done, and I get that. He is. I'm sorry. And granted, I do think this is the perfect spot for him. This is the scheme that can fit Ben better than anybody.
If there is a chance for it to hit, this is it. Because I don't think Washington did him good with that.
One cut running. Yeah, he didn't fit. He never fit anything that these Washington running backs do, other than just the simple gap scheme that, like the simple stuff.
And I don't think Detroit was good enough to support him.
Exactly. So there's a chance, and I don't want to completely shit on him. There is a chance. I'm not saying don't give him a look if you can go get him, but he's not worth a whole lot of your fab. I think we'll see what happens with Nichols. I think at the end of the day, this run game is going to look very, very different. I think Ryan Tannehill is going to start to look very, very different. I think this entire team as a whole is going to look very, very different. He was the team.
I'm glad you mentioned Tannehill then. So because you've been a Dolphins fan, you've always been with Tannehill.
Been a fan of his, yeah.
How far do the Titans fall? They are sitting at 6-2. They are currently tied for the first overall spot in the AFC right now, alongside the Buffalo Bills. How far do they fall? Do they fall? What's the difference? What do you do?
If I was going to put the Bovada odds on where they end up, they're still going to win their division. So I would still think they should be favored there. Obviously, I think they're going to, I don't think they're in any kind of contention to win the number one spot anymore.
Derrick Henry's out 6-10.
6-10, yeah. So Derrick Henry can come back for the playoffs.
There's a chance.
And I would assume, if they're fantasy owners that own Derrick Henry, you can have the hope that maybe he comes back for your final game. I would assume that by the end of the year, there's a chance. Listen, Houston and Jacksonville are going to be nowhere near it. The Colts lose a couple games down the road, and the Titans can stay above water. They could get to the last couple games of the season and not need him. And if they don't need him, they are not going to play him.
They can realistically go. I don't want to say it like this because of how bad it is, but they can go a 1-for-3 kind of approach to every single game from here on out. And as long as they take care of their division, they win it and they're in. That part is because they still get to catch the Jags again and the Texans twice.
We looked at it last week, I remember, and we were like, man, they have a lot of winnable games. We were talking about them as a team that could get to the number one spot if they could get past and win games. Yeah, they're not going to beat the Rams this week. I'll be very, very surprised if they do. They're going to struggle against the Saints, but the Saints just lost their quarterback. We're going to talk about them in a minute. I'm just going through their schedule. They can still beat the Texans. They can still beat the Jaguars. I think they play the Texans twice. They get the Jaguars one more time.
They can beat the 49ers. They can beat your Dolphins.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have a game against the Steelers.
49ers, Steelers. Yeah, so it's a winnable enough schedule. Honestly, you've played your toughest opponents. You've already beaten the Bills and the Chiefs. You're
swept the Colts.
Swept the Colts
already.
We
talked about stereotypical Titans teams that do not do that.
Yeah.
They did that.
Their only mess up, and I know they're regretting it, but losing to the Jets in overtime was a huge, huge misstep because they're going to be wanting that game back, and they're going to be needing that dub at the end of the season. But yeah, I don't care. Any way we look at it, there's a good chance that they go into the Dolphins and Titans at the end of the year, or the Dolphins and Texans last two games of the season, and thinking we need to win one of those to guarantee our spot in the division. And if Derrick Henry is back and could play January 2nd to play the Dolphins at home, they probably won't play him because the Dolphins are 1-7 right now. They're, I think, a better than 1-7 team, but at the end of the day, that's what they are. And they might be looking at the Dolphins as a team. We're gonna railroad them regardless of who's at the running back position. Very rarely do I look at a team losing a running back and see how big of a loss it can be.
That is very rarely does, though.
Yeah, very rarely does it affect the wins-loss column. This one does. Derrick Henry was this team. And I think it speaks to how good he was. It speaks to the Hall of Fame level career that he's been putting up so far.
I hope he's able to come back for the sake of the Titans, and I want to see it. I'm kind of selfish. I would love to go to a home Titans playoff game and get to see the environment like that. It would be the life was taken out of the Titans when they lost a guy like Derrick Henry. Yeah. I'm hoping that they can just stay, like you said, stay above water is the best way to put it. There's going to be times where it doesn't look pretty. You gotta just.
So you say all that, and I just I hate to turn into some journalism here, but I just want to know why you did this to him. For those of you who don't know, Jacob is statistically has the worst luck in fantasy football of all time. In our main league, our keeper league, you decided, I'm gonna trade a pick for Derrick Henry. I'm going to go out and trade for Derrick Henry. And what happens when Jacob makes trades?
If I touch you, you die.
If you touch them, you die.
It's bad.
Why did you ruin Derrick Henry?
It's been like this for a long time. Giants fan, Saquon, I'm sorry. I feel solely responsible as to what has happened to Saquon for so many years, and I finally let go of him. It was time. I said, I've hurt you enough. This is bad for both of us. It's not you, it's me. I did this to Derrick Henry. You can be mad at me. I'm mad at myself.
Listen, you traded for Brandon Ayuk at the beginning of the year. Brandon Ayuk decides to take a huge step back. You traded
Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate you.
I don't know what it is about your trades, but you got to stop trading for star players, especially players that mean so much to their team.
I got Odell.
Henry. Oh goodness!
I started the Odell thing. I love Odell. I've always been attached to him at the hip. I have a very, very Cortland Sutton. I have an eye for being like, you look healthy, you're about to not be. I don't know what it is. I have a good eye for that. So Derrick Henry, I'm going to keep you on my IR spot, and please, if you could just get good for the playoffs, I'll be there. Take care of me, please. Thank you.
He has nothing to owe you. You did this to him.
I also drafted Clyde, then traded him, then he got hurt. So I dodged that one. I recognized the problem. I said, I will hold you and then get rid of you.
Oh man, I'm just obviously joking around.
Talk about the Jameis injury.
Yeah, we got to move on to Jameis. I did. I would have won my week if Jameis doesn't get hurt. He put up 10 points. I thought I was good. I still ended up losing. Jameis ends up getting hurt. ACL, MCL. It was a pretty serious one that didn't look bad. It was a horse collar tackle.
Yeah.
And he just landed the wrong way. I think his ankle was stuck in the ground with his cleat. I know that one hurts because that happened to me once, and it is what it is. But it certainly will. What does this team look like? I actually think this is a fantasy positive if you own if you own Kamara. I think this is fantasy positive. I do.
Because it'd be for backup dump offs.
Yeah, backup dump offs is going to be a big thing. I think he's going to be a bigger part of the passing game. And is it Trevor Siemian? Maybe he played pretty well, right? Like I didn't see anything. Granted, I didn't watch all of that game.
He came in there. I mean, listen, they won at the end of the day. So Sean Payton was asked at halftime the difference in a Jameis Winston offense and a Trevor Siemian, and his response. I love his responses all the time because it's a little bit of coach talk, but there's a little bit of I can tell the confidence that he has in his players too.
Yeah.
He said there's definitely a drop off, but it's not as much as you think it would be.
Yeah.
And he went out there and they did their offense. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. They had some 3 and outs where who's to say if Jameis would have made that too? Because let's not forget we're a week removed from a very, very abysmal performance in that nasty weather against Seattle, where
Absolutely.
I didn't like the Saints offense altogether, regardless of who the quarterback was. Don't want to see Jameis get hurt, but I know the reputation that Sean Payton brings to the table with the New Orleans Saints, and we saw it when Drew Brees went down. He was able to fall back on Taysom Hill and completely shift up the scheme and everything.
All right.
I respect Sean Payton enough to know that he can keep this thing going.
Bovada odds of who is the starting quarterback next week. Taysom Hill or Trevor
Okay, well, it's not Taysom because Taysom
is still
really
hurt, but he's coming back, right? I think
he's coming back soon, and I think Taysom will get the chance at it. But you want to know one that there's one that's really, really down there, and I think if you're trying to get some money and if you want to make it hurt, go get Bovada and go take him for what you can. It's Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers got mentioned in this. Drew Brees also. But Drew Brees said no. So Drew Brees already shot that down. But Phillip Rivers said that he is open to the chance of a comeback. And how weird would it be that, because that's what we saw originally was a Brees Brees to Phillip Rivers swap.
Mm-hmm.
Brees was at the Chargers, got shipped out to the Saints. They go get Rivers at the Chargers, and then Brees retires. And then what if Rivers comes back into the legacy that is New Orleans?
Wow,
that's so different.
I never thought about that.
You never would see that. Like, there's no way. But a very, very far out there shot would be Phillip Rivers. What I think's going to happen is Trevor Siemian. Keep it simple.
Yeah, I would think that would be the ultimate thing.
Stupid. That's what works.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm still trying to figure out the Taysom Hill injury.
Michael Thomas is coming back soon, too.
Michael Thomas is coming back. He's supposed to be back this past week, I think. So he's been in concussion protocol. So this is not something that's going to ail him all year. I think he should be the odds-on favorite to start after him.
Expected to clear concussion for Week 9 Falcons, which is this week.
So I listen. I'll put Simeon or I'll put Taysom Hill as the odds-on favorite to get that starting job. The offense looks very, very different, obviously, with him under center. I don't think
worse for Kamara.
Yeah, but it absolutely has worked for Kamara. When he went down, or when Brees went down last year, I'm pretty sure Kamara had a huge uptick, right?
No, I was saying worse.
Oh, that's worse?
I don't like it. Yeah, I don't know statistically what backs it because you might be able to find something on it, but I do not like maybe fantasy-wise numbers. There's a chance that it works, but when it comes to overall point differential, the Saints did not look pretty in those 4 games. I don't think they scored more than 24 points, and that was their best outing that they did. And with Brees, they were one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. So it's different. I don't know exactly. I don't know the week-to-week outlook on it. it's still Kamara.
He ended up getting 4 targets last game. Obviously, I don't know. I don't know how many of those were
saved his fantasy outlook.
Yeah, I don't know how many of those were Simeon versus Winston. Had 11 the week before though, so that was just a big. I mean, he's obviously been targeted a lot more the past 2 games than he was this past week. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't think it's a killer for him. I still think he's a star. One of those things where I guess we'll just see what happens and play it by ear there. If you're a Kamara owner, are you selling out of panic?
No, I'm not going to sell. I'm a Kamara owner myself, so I can tell you that I'm going to sit here. I'm going to wait and see.
So you did this
happens.
to Winston.
I did this to Winston too, didn't I?
Wow.
So every player that I ever own, if they get hurt or whatever the case may be, listen, I don't want this luck either. I don't want this. I don't want this touch. I just want to win fantasy. Is that too much to ask?
Yes, way too much.
I just want y'all's money.
Yeah.
Just give it to me. I shouldn't have to have. Let me tell you what I've built in this keeper league. Before Derek, I have Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, and Kyle Pitts. And I am 5-3. I have the most points in the league, and I'm 5-3.
I thought you were 4-3.
I just won. I'm 5-3. I am 5-3. That is damn bad luck. I don't know what that is. That's one of the best lineups you could have. That is a fantasy land in a 12-man league.
Bro,
fantasy land.
You're 5-3, and you had a bad week this week too. Like
I did.
You skated by in a
Sterling
win.
Shepard needed 8 points, and he got hurt.
Well, good. Sometimes it works out.
People getting hurt. People stay getting hurt.
Oh man, it is wild how good your team is. And by the way, this isn't just because the entire league is ass. He traded his entire season last year to go get him because injuries happened to you last year and you had to sell.
Devontae Parker, Cortland Sutton, Saquon Barkley.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. You had everybody
bad, dude.
got hurt last year.
Don't get drafted by me.
Yeah, that's the move. Work hard. Work as hard as you want in your goals to be a star in the NFL.
Don't let Jacob think you're a good player. Be damned if you do.
Stay under the radar. That's what you got to do. All right, let's move on. Von Miller gets traded. I owe some shots for this, actually.
I'm so happy.
I did not think he was going to go for that much, and I really genuinely believe he wouldn't have if it wasn't the Rams.
To be fair, I'll go ahead and counter you and say...
You didn't think he was going for that much.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Von Miller went for a future second and third.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's just wild to me. For a team that's just given away their picks for years to come already, which is fine.
Well, I think it's because they took Jared Goff at number 1 overall, and they said, holy fuck, we don't want to do this again. Have them all take all of our picks forever. You can't miss it if you do it this way.
I will say this: their scouting department's fucking good. Like they're starting. They hit on
5th
and 6th round picks are starting all over that field.
They do a very good job, especially defensively.
The depth is better than it should be for as many stars as they're paying. They have like better depth than it should be. Now, granted, I don't know what it would look like if 3 injuries away from over $100 million not playing.
I mean, that's for anyone.
Yeah, but I mean, it's absolutely. They're certainly top heavy still, but man,
it's Rams clear cut now though, right?
Yeah, they're the best team in football,
bar
right?
none favorite. I would say offensively, I like them the most.
Okay, well, I'm not looking at it right now, but what would your Bovada odds be for them to win the Super Bowl right now?
Plus 300, plus 200, and
yeah.
I think that the next team is a good, considerable part away. I think we have the Rams at 1, and I know this is coming a few weeks after they lost to the Cardinals, so maybe I'm reading a little bit too much in this Von Miller deal, but I do think that Von Miller has a lot of good football to be played, and I think when Von Miller can be the second guy that you're having to worry about on that defensive line, that can cause you a ton of problems. I think the Rams are a good enough football team. They are leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else up there. Maybe Buffalo. The Bucks. I really like the Bucks top to bottom. I know they just slipped up against the Saints, but
yeah, I mean, obviously, I absolutely agree. First of all, I do think they're the best team in football. It's one of those things where
go put money on the Rams.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
But is it too good to be true?
Well, I want to go back to the trade itself, and I want to argue that while I still think they're the best team in football, and I do like Von Miller, I don't want to shit on him. I think this was way too much for Von Miller.
I think they give up a lot, but I still like
Von. This is a guy who's been injured, has had issues, and he has not been the guy that he was 4 years ago. So I listen. The Broncos couldn't say no to that trade. I think if the Broncos were offered just like a 4th round pick, I think they'd probably say no out of respect for Von. And I think this is one of those things where they had to accept a trade that was just too much value to turn down. You now have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. I mean, there's a lot of capital there. That's worth something.
Of course.
But yeah, I am surprised by this. Are you not surprised by this?
I was surprised to see it because the main reason for me was that I thought Von, I know the talent that Von is, but like you said, 32 years old, injured, and we just saw, I know know it's a different position. It's still on that same side of the ball, though. Stephon Gilmore, very much in his prime, a top 5 corner in the league. Nobody wanted to touch the guy. I was shocked at that they were going to cut him until the Panthers said, whoa, okay, instead of the man having hit free agency waivers, we'll give you a 6th round
I will say
pick.
this, I think, listen, corners fall off a cliff faster, corners and running backs fall off a cliff. I do wonder
they'll go from relevant to irrelevant just like
it's
that.
So quick. AJ Bouye was one of the top corners in the league when he was with the Jags not that long ago, and I mean, gone. I mean,
Xavier
he's done.
Rhodes, yes,
Xavier
he found
Rhodes.
a second home in Indianapolis for a minute, but
it happens to corners. It happens to running backs and corners more than any other position. So I think that was more of like, I think the team saw something that maybe we weren't seeing as far as like, was there a decline in physical ability? It's a half a step. It's a quarter of a step. You lose that and you're just a different player when you're playing corner out there on the edge. Yeah. Von Miller, obviously still an incredibly talented player and can be more obvious. Like, even if he has lost a step, he can still be Von Miller. He still can be strong and disruptive and all these things.
And that's a trade that you don't even get to see go through on Madden, because it's like, oh, that's not fair. Come on now. That's not realistic. Their team is loaded top to bottom. It's going to be fun to watch.
Ridiculous. Yeah, no, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited. I'm rooting for all those guys. None of those guys, well, Von Miller is really the only guy on that team that's won a Super Bowl. But I mean, I think all of those guys deserve one. They're all Hall of Famers if they keep their career going the way they are.
But I feel like the Rams have kind of built themselves as the villains, though, from doing things so differently.
It's fine.
They're loaded with star power. They do it so unconventional with who needs the draft process, and we can just get stars.
This channel as a whole is a draft channel. I mean, we've gotten to where we are. A lot of the reasons for some of the draft, the off-season draft videos that we put out and stuff like that. I love the draft. I dive into it, and I cannot blame the Rams for saying fuck the draft. Let's go get stars. Because as much as I love the draft and as much as I think I'm pretty okay at recognizing talent and all these things, there's so many other factors. There's so many things that go into it. You can't control where a player goes. You can't control how they develop. You can't control what's between their ears, and that's a huge part of the developmental process. And at the end of the day,
I think
the
it
Rams
goes
say fuck it
to their culture too, and I guess Sean McVay and the team infrastructure with being able to handle all of these already established guys who, for what you could say, have egos to their names. All of these guys that they have traded for in the past. Jalen Ramsey was a big one, very outspoken player, to think that you have to appease this guy or else, he's going to be outspoken. Yeah. Aaron Donald, not that he was homegrown, drafted in town and stuff, not in town, but from the Rams organization. But he still is the face of the NFL right now. Back-to-back reigning defensive player of the year, probably going to do it again. Who knows what Myles Garrett's got for him.
Yeah.
And these are big names. You add a Von Miller type, it goes to show that they have a really well-oiled machine, and they do hit late on these draft picks too. That gives them, I guess, they can afford the risk on that because they trust themselves enough to know, hey, we can hit on a 4th, 5th, or 6th, so we don't really need this late first right now.
Yeah,
it works.
No, I absolutely agree. Anywhere else you want to go with this? Obviously, Melvin Ingram gets traded.
Yeah, that was a later one.
It was one of those things where
small
it's like, small move. It was interesting that Tomlin came out and said we want volunteers, not hostages. So there's obviously some stuff going on there, and man, Tomlin just does so well handling the locker room. We've seen that for years now.
And really, that man's good side.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, there's a lot of stuff we didn't know at the time that you can just look back on and say, man, you handled Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown in the same locker room. You handled. Obviously, I think he's different now, but Big Ben obviously had an attitude on him. A lot of things that could have maybe tanked the franchise that he handled, and I think he is just an admirable coach. And hey, when a guy like that says we want volunteers, not hostages, I respect that, and I say, hey, as good as I think Ingram is, and I certainly am kind of surprised by this move, I respect it.
I'm trying to think if I have a shout out I want to do.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's got to go to Mike White.
Mike White?
Mike White, the quarterback of the New York Jets. The guy who stepped up out of nowhere and threw for 400-something yards. Yes, 2 interceptions for sure. But who the heck are you stepping up and doing that? Listen, I don't even know this guy's roots.
He was on the same team as he played for Texas Tech. I think he was the backup for Texas Tech when Mahomes was there and moved over to USC. And then I feel like I remember when he was drafted. He was drafted in 4th or 5th round a couple years ago. He was a 4-year
Went
veteran.
to Western Kentucky.
Oh, he went to Western. Okay,
He's a hilltopper.
All right, then I'm just way off. I'm thinking of somebody else altogether. Then I don't remember. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't remember.
He stepped up, and I don't know if you're seeing that right there. That bet slip ticket from Tropicana. Y'all can't see the screen, of course. There was a guy who put $100-something that he would lead the league in passing this week, and that paid out.
Huge.
Yeah, I think it's like $50-something thousand.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah.
What a bet.
$50-something thousand.
That's awesome. I guess he wasn't drafted. Oh, he's drafted in the 5th round by the Dallas Cowboys, I guess.
Mike White.
Okay, yeah, I was way off. I don't know who I was thinking of, but I was way off on whoever I was talking about.
So, is Mike White the future of the New York Jets? No, I wouldn't say that for sure.
He's a great... He just made himself a lot of money.
Yeah.
He made himself a lot of money for if he can do that again and just to play the way he does. Obviously had the interceptions early, but made up for him in a big way.
You know who it reminds me of? I might have the name wrong, but I think I'm right. Matt Flynn of the Packers stepped up years ago now.
Yeah,
when Aaron Rodgers was hurt and he threw for 400 something.
Yeah.
And got paid solely off of that.
Got paid by the Seahawks the same year that they drafted Russell Wilson. And then Russell Wilson takes the starting job because he was Russell Wilson and Matt Flynn was a backup.
But Matt Flynn in one game made himself a paycheck. Mike White, I'm sure you just made yourself a paycheck.
He'll be a backup. He'll bounce around the league for years after this. Even if he doesn't end up getting a starting chance or anything, maybe that's what he is. Who knows? But
props to him though. He got
huge
that.
Props,
to be able to go toe to toe against the Bengals and really, that's a hard fought win. Something that Robert Saleh especially can look at a locker room and be like, hey, we're doing it for this.
Good dub. Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
good dub.
I think we'll close it out right there. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all those things. Thank you so much to Underdog Podcast. Thank you so much to the listeners. We really appreciate you. And we'll be back next week.
7.
Peace.